Welcome to our live virtual recruiting director Q&A presented by Summer Associate Hub. I'm honored to be joined by this all-star cast of recruiting directors at top firms, all of whom have been in the legal recruiting industry for a long time and respected in the industry for connecting with students in a genuine and authentic way. If you are looking for insight into navigating the accelerated and changing law student recruiting process, you are in for a treat. My name is Albert from Summer Associate Hub, and I'm proud to have all of you here. Before we jump in, a quick intro. What is a Summer Associate Hub? Summer Associate Hub is a free content resource hub for law students. We have embarking on the 1L and 2L recruiting process. I'm a former law student and big law associate. We know from our own experience how hard it is as a 1L to understand what it's really like to work as a lawyer and engage with firms. Our platform, summerassociatehub.com, has blog posts, podcast episodes, short video tutorials, exercises, interviews with attorneys, and other content like this to help you learn about practice areas and prepare for the recruiting process. We host live virtual programs, which you should know about. You're watching one right now, where students can easily learn directly from and network with law firm attorneys and recruiting team members. We've had some really nice programs already this year. We've had a two-part summer program showcase. We had a crash course on how to up your LinkedIn game as a 1L, and we have tons of other content that we've hosted over the prior years, all available in our video library, so check it out. We will also be hosting our popular transactional practice showcase and litigation practice showcase coming up in January. We're going to post a link in the chat to sign up if you have not already. We also have some fantastic in-person programs coming up. We have our job fair and interview program in February, as well as some law firm office tours. So the signups are coming up in the next week or so make sure you stay tuned on that. And if you have a technical degree and interested in a patent role at a top firm, register for our IP virtual interview program on January 30th. We're going to add the link in the chat. The best way to stay updated is to sign up for our newsletter. If you already signed up for this event, we've added you to the newsletter as good marketers do, so don't worry about it. All right, so jumping into our event, this virtual summer program showcase, this virtual recruiting director Q&A rather, is the first of its kind. We're giving law students the ability to hear directly from recruiting directors at top firms to cut through a lot of the noise that I think is happening right now with the accelerated timeline and format. So here's the agenda. We're going to have our wonderful panel of recruiting directors, which we'll introduce in a second, answer a variety of key questions from 1Ls. At the end of the panel, the firms have also graciously offered to raffle off some pretty awesome prizes. So we'll post the link in the chat to join the raffle. And you have to be present to win. So if you sign up for the raffle, please be warned, we will be calling your name live on the air if you win. At the end of the panel discussion, at about 8:10 p.m. or 8:15 Eastern, each firm will host a separate breakout room where you can pop in, ask questions, meet some of the firm's team members. The breakout rooms will all be available through this Zoom event, so stay tuned for easy instructions on that later on. We're also hoping to have time to answer some good questions, so please use the Q&A to ask some questions. I'll be taking a look at that throughout the panel, and we'll tee those up at the end. Yeah. I think we're ready to get started. So let's start off with some brief introductions. I'm going to go in order of my screen. So Rachel, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Kleiner. I'm the legal recruiting officer at Proskauer. I've been at Proskauer for 12 and a half years. 7 of those years I worked for the lovely Caroline Menez, who's this way on my screen. So Albert was right. You have the best panel here. Prior to being in recruiting, I was a litigation associate in a big law firm. So I kind of have experience on both sides. Excited to be here. Everyone take a deep breath. You'll be fine. It's going to be okay.
That's the most important advice, I think. We could end the panel right now. Caroline, on to you.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me to participate in the panel. And I just want to start out by saying to the 1Ls, I am so sorry that you are dealing with this ridiculous, crazy timeline just months into your law school career and as you're entering into finals. But I'm hoping the session is going to help you feel a little bit more comfortable. And, and you're going to know that you're going to get through this. Caroline Menez, I'm the Director of Legal Recruiting at Sheppard Mullin. I've been in legal my entire career, first as a corporate associate in New York before moving to counseling at Columbia Law School. I then transitioned into legal recruiting, working with the wonderful Rachel Kleiner for many years before I came over to Sheppard a few years ago in our California offices.
Great, thanks so much. Nancy, on to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Nancy Parker. I'm the Director of Attorney Recruitment at Fried Frank. I have been with Fried Frank for 18 years, and I have been in recruiting for 22 years. So really just excited to be with you tonight and echoing the sentiments of breathe, we're going to get through it. And I said we as a group are going to get through this.
Love it. Natasha, last but not least.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natasha Zech. I'm the Chief of Attorney Talent at Williams and Connolly. We operate out of one office in DC. I was a litigator for about 8 years at a number of small firms, actually. So I'm also a reformed lawyer, like some of the folks here, and have been recruiting for the last 15. And in my role, I actually do associate development, diversity inclusion, the women's initiative as well. And my kind of like introductory comment to the students on here is that you're going to get a lot of different advice from folks here, and that's actually the beauty of it, right? Even though some of the firms are doing things a little differently, you're going to find something that works for you.
I love that point, Natasha, and I think it's a good excuse for me to mention that the firms on this panel have a lot of different office locations, practices, sizes, and I think I think Natasha, as Natasha mentioned, hearing all the different perspectives is exactly why we put this together, right? To hear how different it is for different firms. So thanks for mentioning that. All right, so let's start with the first question. We're going to start with the tough questions. We'll get it out of the way. So it's not a secret, I think, that the recruiting timelines have accelerated quite a lot. So I think a few years ago it was, oh my God, firms are recruiting in May, and then it was, oh my God, our firms are recruiting in March, and then it was, oh my God, it was February. So firms have already started to accept applications already, or plan to over the next few weeks, few months. So sometimes before first semester grades even come out. But I think a lot of students know grades are known as a key component to law firm applications, and many firms are known to be grade conscious and looking at other things as well. So when looking at applications to select for initial interviews in November and December, or any time before grades come out, I guess kind of to ask you bluntly, what are you looking for? So Natasha, I'm going to stick with you actually to start with this one. So feel free to kick us off.
Okay, so I might be the outlier for a lot of these questions just going forward. We're actually not accepting applications till January. Part of the reason we are doing that is we're a firm that doesn't hire a ton of laterals. And so we are finding future partners from our summer associate class. So what that means is we actually spend a little bit more time on the front end hiring summers and associates because we don't do a lot of lateral hiring in terms of how we grow. And our firm is small relative to some of the other the big firms on the panel here. And so what that means is we want to give you as much time to kind of research us as we would like to have the time to get to know you. And one of those data points in trying to find someone who's going to hopefully find a longer term home at the firm is to wait for a full kind of application, right? We are certainly doing 1L outreach. I'm visiting a school right as we speak, actually. So there are certainly other points of engagement prior to your grades, which we could talk a little bit about. But we're going to look at the applications holistically. But really, the grades are kind of going to be a differentiator for us, given our size and our hiring model.
Love that. Thank you, Natasha. Nancy, what are your thoughts there?
So I think what we're really looking for is the strongest application that you can give us with the materials that you have right now. So that means, obviously your resume, but that means an error-free, typo-free resume that's also accurately describing your experience. We're looking for your undergrad transcript. And if something went awry or you weren't prepared to have that ever see the light of day for whatever reason, it's always helpful to provide a little bit of insight, maybe an addendum about, the history of what happened during school. Cover letter, personal statement, if firms are asking for those, whatever can give us a little bit of insight into your story and why you're thinking about us. And then, being here tonight, being at our networking events, they are not critical things. And, we're going to get to that, I think, later on, Albert, because there has to be a balance to showing up at these things and then doing your schoolwork. But firms track your attendance at this stuff, and we're excited to see you. So when we see a familiar name, that helps, escalate somebody to the top of the pack. But it's really it's not rushing through anything right now. So we'll get to that too. I wouldn't apply to something unless you're super confident about all your materials.
That's great. Yeah, that's also a good segue to our next question. But before we get there, Rachel, what are your thoughts there?
I think especially if you have a specific interest in the firm, if there's something about that firm that makes you want to apply, including that either in your cover letter, your personal statement, an addendum, recruiters are going to be looking through very long applications. They're going to be a lot of applications, and they're going to be looking for something to pick out, which is why they want to interview you. And I think it's important to make yourself stand out, obviously, by having error-free materials. But if they look at your resume and say like, wow, that would be a great fit for our X practice or our Y practice, and you identify that in your cover letter, it shows that you've done your research, and there's nothing better than a recruiter making like a perfect match based on the application. So we're looking for that, like make it easy for us to match you with a practice and with our firm. So just do your research on the back end about the practices.
Yeah, that's great. Caroline, what are your thoughts there?
Everything that everyone said already. I think for me, I really like to see someone who has some direction about the practice area they are going for. You know, I understand that you don't have the luxury of a 1L summer program to kind of figure out whether you like this or that. It's so early in your career, but you know, you are the manager of your career, and I want to see serious candidates, and serious candidates think about what they want to do. And so at the very least, you should know if you want to do litigation or transactional and have some reasons behind that. And if you say you want to do M&A, I would love to see why you want to do M&A. And that's one of, you know, one mistake I hear a lot in interviews. It's like, oh, I really want to do this. And when I dig in, they say, oh, why? Because I want to work on deals on, you know, the front page of the Wall Street Journal. That is not a good reason to want to do M&A work. I want to see that they've talked to people and have done some research into what that work is, and thinking critically about their own skills, their background, and their interests, why that ties in. So seeing some kind of alignment, I like to see that. I forget, I think, was it Rachel or I forget who shows like real interest in why Sheppard Mullin. And I understand we're going to be one of hundreds of firms maybe that you apply to. I still want to feel special. I want to still feel like you actually do want to work here. And I will say, you know, in your previous experience, I think some students don't put all their experience there because they say, well, that's not relevant. And I just want to see work experience or volunteer experience or community involvement experience. I want to see passion. I want to see commitment. I want to see some kind of work ethic, right? Like if you worked during college to support yourself through school, put that in there, right? And make a point of it, because that to me shows like real work ethic, shows me that you know how to prioritize, you know how to manage your time well. So I think I maybe talked too much, but those are things that I like to look for.
And I love that point, that last point, because I speak about this often when I speak on campus with students and in presentations that we do that highlight. I think sometimes students feel like if it's non-legal, quote unquote, they have to hide it. But I actually love to tell students, like, show how it enhances your application, show how it's relevant. You know, client service, working at a restaurant or a bar, that's client service 101. And if you could highlight that, especially with the recruiting timelines we're dealing with now, where you might have very limited work experience, I love that point because it really is such a difference. All right, so the next question is, so for firms that are opening up application portals for 1L summer, 2L summer, or both at the same time, because those two are kind of blending together right now. So I think we touched on this a little bit already. When should a student apply? I think there's a lot of chatter about kind of going as soon as you can and kind of the speed. When should a student apply? And is there a disadvantage to a student who doesn't apply like immediately after the portal opens? So I would love to just hear from whoever wants to chime in on this. Feel free to unmute yourself and just jump in.
Can I just level set? So because I
Go for
want
it.
students to like know who they're talking to on the call. We are opening December 15th. Can everyone just say when they're opening? Because I don't want to speak
that's a
for
good
firms
idea.
that are open now if none of us are open now.
Yeah.
I can say why I think they're doing what they're doing, but I just want to make sure students like know who they're talking to.
It's a great idea.
We're opening January 1 and we only hire 2Ls. So we are not hiring for 1L. We're not
Sorry,
hiring for
Albert, I'm taking your job.
No. You're doing a better job than me. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sheppard Mullin opened its 1L portal on November 3rd, and our 2L portal will open December 1st, assuming our ATS is up and running. So somewhere in early December.
And Fried Frank is like Proskauer. We're opening on December 15th for 2L applications.
Great. Yeah, that was a great idea, Rachel. Thank you. So Rachel, now now you have to answer the question. So
What was the question? Okay, so here's what I think, and I will bifurcate this into firms that are open right now. I will say, not being one of those firms, in my professional opinion, if firms are open now and interviewing now, you should apply. I'm not going to say apply at the expense of your grades or apply at the expense of your studying or apply at the expense of your mental health. Like, let's just talk about that for a second. But if firms are interviewing now, they're looking at your applications now. I would suggest you apply. I don't think it needs to be the second or tomorrow, but I wouldn't wait until January to apply for firms that are open now.
Yeah.
For those of us that are opening on December 15th, I will say that we will be reviewing applications that come in. Our goal was to open after finals for most candidates, look at the applications as they come in, and really kick things off in January. Is there a chance the market shifts and we will shift with the market? Yeah, we're doing this in November right now. Things change. But I will say that if for firms that are opening December 15th, and again, if you apply a little bit later, I think it's okay. I would try to apply in December. I wouldn't wait until the January rush of grades. But I think that for firms that are now, I would apply. I have no insider information though.
I would also add that if you're going for the firms that you do apply to, especially if they have portals that are open, to just be strategic about which city you can credibly want to be in, right? So Williams and Connolly only has an office in DC, but if your heart is set on going to New York, our timeline really doesn't matter, right? So you should think just because a firm has multiple offices, you should be able to have a narrative about which city you want to practice in, so it can help you narrow your focus about where you're going to apply. And I think too, even if your practice area is maybe in a state of flux in terms of the one that you're most interested in because you haven't taken an exam yet, most people at this stage at least know if they want to do litigation or corporate. So to try to at least target your search by city and by kind of general practice area so that you're being strategic. And again, to Rachel's point about your mental health, if you're applying to 100 firms where credibly you're not really going to want to be in any of those cities, that's just going to exhaust you and probably not an effective use of your resources. So to try to be a little bit thoughtful about, at minimum, the city and the practice area, and then maybe think about a little bit too about firm size, right? If you're like, I'm really dying to be at a larger firm in New York versus a smaller office in a more regional, kind of office in a smaller city, it's something to think about as well.
I was going to say, for me, the most important thing is that your materials are polished and you're ready to move forward. So make sure everything is done to the best that you can make it. You're not going to have grades, and I think everybody gets that. If you're applying in December, you're not going to have your transcript. But aside from that, everything else, the error-free resume, your cover letter, everything else should be ready to go and perfect. Don't send something early at the expense of sending something as perfect as possible. Or actually, and don't compromise your grades, because your grades are going to stick with you for the rest of your career. And if you have any aspirations to clerk, or, some firms care about grades when you're lateraling. So your grades really will stick with you. So please don't do any of this at the expense of your grades and studying.
I think that's all great insight, and I think it goes back to a point about just doing as you mentioned the last question, doing the research about what the practices are and what the firms are, and I think we have had a few questions in the Q&A just on the same theme, like how can we understand which firms are for us, or what practice areas we might want to be in, this quickly into law school. And I think the answer is just use whatever tools you have at your disposal to do that. I think everyone on this call knows that whenever I have a chance to plug Summer Associate Hub, I take the opportunity. So I will tell you, check out Summer Associate Hub's practice area overviews. They're very, very helpful. And just in a matter of minutes, you could prepare for an interview or a networking event by understanding like what is M&A, what is finance, and all of that. We had one good question. That's a good follow-up for this. I'm just gonna just ask it now. For firms that are opening up their portals for 1Ls and 2Ls at the same time, or very close in time, is it a disadvantage to not apply to the 1L program but only apply for the 2L program? Or do you feel like applying to the 1L program kind of cuts the line or provides an advantage for being considered as a 2L?
I'm going to say the latter. I think that, applying for a 1L position shows a real interest in the firm, and the timelines have effectively merged. It's not really that much of a difference. So I would say if a firm is doing 1L recruiting, you're really interested in the firm, apply now. And I definitely mark those people that, hey, maybe not for this fellowship, but I really want to see this person for 2L summer. So
Thanks for that, Caroline. Yeah. All right, so the next question is I guess, what is your recommendation for students to just navigate the timing of applying? Like, it's a little bit of an awkward different distinction now between the application portals opening and some firms starting interviewing and then grades coming out later. So what is your recommendation for students who are navigating the timing of applying or even interviewing and then updating the firms when their grades are released? I'd love to hear from I guess one or two of the panelists on this one.
Is it I feel like it is firm specific. For us,
Yeah.
like I don't want 5 emails as the grades come out. You know what I mean? So if you're going to do it, just minimize the disruption to the firm, right? Understanding that you'll probably apply once with a resume, maybe a cover letter and an interest statement, and then follow up the transcript, but just do it once. Don't kind of do it multiple times. To the extent that some firms will actually say on their resume kind of how, or on their website, or on various portals, how they wish to receive it. And so that can actually be really helpful. Some may say, you know what, we will reach out to you, if selected or what have you. But so just make sure it is going to be kind of firm specific on the timing. But for us, I would say just generally minimizing the disruption, especially to the recruiting team who's going to be reviewing quite a few applications, is helpful.
Yeah, anybody else have anything to add there? Yeah, I think that's key, and that's something that we mention often to students is just follow the firm's instructions. And if the firm has clear instructions, if they have a portal that you should be updating, then make sure you're doing that the right way. Because if you're gonna like Natasha mentioned, if you're gonna be blasting out emails to all the recruiting teams at the firms, that's not an easy thing for them to consider you. All right, so the next question, just one change that we've seen with pre-OCI recruiting, just from the feedback that we've got from firms and from running our programs, is that firms are able to review candidates from a wider variety of schools, being able to accept direct applications outside of school organized OCI programs. So if you're a 1L or a rising 2L out of school that may not have a huge pipeline for Big Law, what can that student do in particular to stand out in this process? And I know that's actually been a question that's been popping up in the Q&A, so I'm glad it was on our agenda. So yeah, curious to hear from a couple of the panelists what you think there.
I'm happy to start. I think, be strategic about your networking. If you've identified some firms that you're excited about, you can see if there are alums at the firm that you could, do proactive outreach to. I think it's also utilizing resources that are at your school. Sometimes the career services teams know people that can, help make connections into the firm. I wouldn't be deterred by any of this. I think in this market, everybody is looking for the best talent, and that comes from all different schools. And, be strategic about how you are just doing outreach with people. And then I think it's, as Rachel and Caroline said, it's tailoring that outreach that's specific as to why that particular firm is of interest to you. That draws people's eye, that gets people's attention. And if somebody is excited about us, we're going to be excited about you. So it's just being thoughtful in how you are making those connections. But I would do it. I wouldn't hesitate and say, how am I going to get into that firm? It's an exciting time for everybody, and we want you to be excited about the talent you can bring to each of our firms.
And I do think that the opportunity for candidates at schools where we may not have traditionally gone to in-person OCI with the hospitality suite, if any of you listening even know what that is, I think the greatest opportunity is for candidates that we would not have otherwise met. We are able to interview people from schools all over where we would never have visited just because of time and geographic constraints. We're able to review everyone's application. So if anyone has something to gain, I think it is candidates that go to schools where there is not a traditional pipeline into one of our big law firms. So I would take it as a positive. If anyone is coming out on top in this situation, I do think it is candidates that we would not have otherwise seen. And that's really exciting for us because we've been able to diversify our classes with a much broader range of schools through this. I don't love the timeline, but through this virtual direct apply, I think it's really allowed us to meet people we never would have met, which is exciting for us.
Albert, also, I just want to add that, I think people at firms, despite the bad reputation lawyers have, people are pretty nice. And so if you reach out to someone, most times, unless they're busy, they will respond and either connect you with someone who's a better fit to talk to you or speak with you themselves. I will say, reaching out to recruiters, I think we're all really nice too, but the next few months are going to be really insane. So asking us to set you up with a few people, we will do our best, but, just understand there's a lot going on. But if you reach out to a lawyer who is an alum of your law school or your undergrad, I would try to do that. And if you're going to be at home during the holidays where you want to work, say I'm in the neighborhood and would love to, take you out to coffee if you just have 15 minutes to spare. But, I think people are nicer than you might think. And the other thing is, use all your connections. I feel really mixed about it because I think it's unfair that some people do have these ins. But, if I'm going to be honest, like that really helps people. So if you have any ins through friends, family, your friends' parents, like use those because that makes a huge difference in your application.
I love that, and honestly, being here is part of that, right? So I think that's great. And we're hearing a lot about how busy this semester is. Law firms are hosting a ton of events. There's a lot of obviously academic, requirements, and we're hearing a lot about students, burnout and things like that. But to have 180 or so people right now live on the call is great. So joining our breakout rooms, engaging, hearing from the different firms here is definitely a part of that. So that's all really, really great advice.
I want to add one thing, Albert, actually about this, because on the connection front, because I think this process really disfavors first-gen professionals. And so I kind of specifically want to address that group who may not have those types of connections. I myself, not a first-gen professional, but my parents were not lawyers. And so navigating this process, 20 years ago was a mystery, and it was a lot longer than this one. So what I would say is there are other ways you can express your interest in a firm. There are parts of a firm's website, like the in the news section, like what is the firm really excited about? Are there things that the firm is working on that you are particular interest to you? Like I met a student the other day who had been following one of our trials. He has no connection to DC. He has, no connection to the firm really, but just said, I was interested in this type of work and happened to mention it to me and it stood out. So there are other ways that you can build connection with the firm, even if they're not through necessarily parents or colleagues, or, from your undergrad. But to Caroline's point about your network is broader than you think. You have, classmates who've lived in the city that you might want to be in, or even upperclassmen, are also a good resource. So don't just assume it's someone who's a lawyer at the firm who can be of assistance to you.
That's great advice. Thanks, Natasha. So I think similar question, moving on to the next one. I guess the first semester, as I mentioned just a second ago, has become very busy with a lot of law firm networking opportunities, applications, etc. But also just learning how to be a law student, right? And preparing for finals. So I'm going to put you on the spot. If I'm a 1L and I have to choose between spending 2 hours studying or 2 hours attending a law firm networking event on campus, which one do you recommend? So Rachel, I'm going to put you on the spot for this one. Natasha, I want to hear from you as well.
Love this one. Okay, so if it was September and October, maybe I would have a different answer. But it's November and finals are like right there. I appreciate you all coming. I think this is a good use of your time, but starting tomorrow, study. Grades will overcome a lack of networking and connections. Networking will not overcome bad grades. Full stop. Like it just won't. You can network till you're blue in the face. If you have bad grades in this compressed timeline, you're gonna have an uphill battle. And I hate that. I hate that it's first semester grades because I did not do well first semester. I didn't even do that well second semester, but I did better. And I had the chance. Okay. I had the opportunity to improve. It is one semester. I would say you've put in the time so far. You've made a few connections. Send those folks an email and say, over the last few months, it's been great meeting you, getting to know you. I'm looking forward to hunkering down and studying for finals. Can't wait to apply in December or whenever your application's open. Look forward to being in touch and just put your head down. That's what I think. But Natasha.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, my answer would totally have been different if it was 2 months ago versus now. I mean, look, the point of you going to law school is to learn the law and to be an associate. And you need to learn to manage your docket and your time and prioritize what is important, which are going to be your law school exams, because they will dictate, a fair amount of kind of what the opportunities are going to be for you, more than the networking will. I would say to think about the format of the network that you choose, right? Something like this is great. This is a very effective use of your time, not just to hear these wonderful people talk about all of the, you know, dispense all of our knowledge, but just because you can get a lot of information in a way that is more efficient. So if you're like, I'm looking to make connections with firms and they're offering virtual webinars, that actually is a way for you to get the information and still dedicate your time to study. So not everything needs to be in person. As someone who's a raging extrovert and loves everything in person, just learning to kind of prioritize, especially as we get closer to exams. Your grades really need to come first, and exams need to come first.
That's great. Yeah, and I always think about like what are low lift, high impact activities that you can spend very little time and effort and get a very high impact. To Natasha's point, things like this are great. Not only Summer Associated, but firms are all hosting virtual events in addition to in-person events. Schools are hosting virtual events for students to help with this process. So if you're able to just figure out how to fit that into your time, when you know, in addition, obviously not at the expense of study, even just getting ready in the morning and hearing a podcast from a firm and being able to understand what they do is a very effective use of time without taking expense of studying. All right, so Caroline and Nancy, I'm going to come to you for this next one's very common question that students are asking about is more about assessments. So some firms ask students to complete assessments as part of their law student application. Can you talk a bit about what those even are and how those are used by your firm? I guess, Caroline, let's start with you.
So Sheppard does use Suited, which is a platform that uses assessments to help firms find the right candidates. They use AI and psychology to kind of measure the traits that students have and compare them to the traits of our successful lawyers. So every firm has its own profile. And so, you know, all of these traits, there's no bad answers. You can't do badly on this assessment. I just really want to stress that. You cannot do badly. It's really about matching up what your particular traits are and finding the place that you're going to be the most successful. So I think it's really a great way to make hiring kind of more personalized. And we're likely to end up with a better fit. So, you know, I just don't want people to be afraid of it. It's okay. You know, it takes a little bit of time, I think. There's the Suited personality assessment, and then there's a cognitive portion where there's critical reasoning, analytical reasoning, logical reasoning, and attention to detail.
I didn't realize we were going to get like an LSAT. We should have got like an LSAT trigger warning there. But no, but that makes a lot of sense. Nancy, what are your thoughts?
I would also say that in this completely chaotic environment, it's a supplement to your materials. It's not the be all end all. It's not going to disqualify somebody. It's in an environment where we have just your resume and just your undergrad transcript. What can help us learn a little bit more about you? And so to Caroline's point, there's a behavioral fit, which really just means, do your values align with that particular firm's values? And then there are these essential competencies. So they help us just see, okay, you know, what's the person's story? And again, there is no right or wrong answer. People ask us all the time, what was my score? And there's sort of no such thing, because the score that works for Fried Frank might not be the score that works for Sheppard, might not be the score that works for Williams and Connolly. But I agree, like, do not be frightened of it. I would, if you are asked to complete these assessments, dedicate the time that none of you have. We're establishing that on here, but an uninterrupted sitting, because I believe with Suited, you have to do it in one sitting. So make sure free of distractions and just do it and do your best. Don't try to game it, just answer the questions and move on with life.
Yeah, and just from our conversations with firms about assessments in general, I haven't heard of one firm who excludes people from the process because of their assessment score. If anything, it's like Nancy mentioned, it's a supplement as an extra data point in addition to grades and other things that are more on paper. So I often get a laugh when you see on Reddit or other forums who's like, I totally just bombed this Suited exam. Like, I hope nobody sees it, and I don't think there's such a thing. So that's a really great insight. Thank you for that. So I guess another question is, I guess a lot of students ask this question is, what are the most common mistakes that you see students make during the process? So Nancy, I'm actually going to stick with you to start on this one, and Rachel would love to hear from you as well.
Sure. So it's primarily a lack of preparation.
Yeah.
And in this environment, mistakes can be pretty heightened. And So I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but it could be that you're, not correctly addressing the recruiter in your letter or referring to a different firm in your application materials. It's, taking the opportunities maybe a little too casually or informally in this environment with things moving so quickly. And even in our traditional environment, I think you have to make sure that every interaction you have with a firm is pristine. You're presenting your best self. And the firm should be doing the same thing. This is not, just only on you, but you want to make sure that your interactions are professional and that you are showing up in a way that if that's your one shot to talk to a firm, that it's counting for something. And I think sometimes speed, quality gets sacrificed for speed, and people can come across a little too casually in this. I don't know if anyone else has other thoughts.
Yeah, I think a mistake that I see students make a lot now is not taking enough time to self-reflect. You get super wrapped up in rankings and what your classmates say and what Reddit says. Not that I check that too, but like it's really easy. There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of external information being thrown at you. Ultimately, you're going to have to make a decision about where you want to start your career. And let me just say, it's probably not going to be where you spend your whole career. So let's like take a little bit of the pressure off of where you spend your 2L summer. Like it will be okay. I am not at the firm where I spent my 2L summer and I'm doing fine. So let's just take that pressure off. But I think Natasha mentioned this earlier. Do you want to be at a big firm, at a small firm, in a big city, in a small city, litigation, transactional? Like really sit down and think about what is important to you, because once you are in it, like really in it, in the interviewing, the noise and the pressure is going to be so loud. You're not going to have time to do that self-reflection, and you're going to find yourself accepting an offer, accepting callbacks, not knowing what to do. Like, where did I end up? And then the dust is going to settle, and then you're going to wonder what you just did. Take the time on the front end, especially if you have the opportunity to over holiday break when classes have ended and you've like crushed your finals and all of that, to really think about like what is important to you and hold fast to that during the interview process. If you have a center in all of this, not to sound cheesy, it will be easier for you because you won't be swayed by what the person who happens to be in the room with you is saying at that given time. Plus everything that Nancy said, like 100% what Nancy said too.
Albert, can I say something really
Please.
quickly?
Yes, please.
I think I would say make sure that you're being authentic, and I mean that on a few different levels. I've noticed a lot of students when they're interviewing will just kind of tell the lawyer that they're interviewing that's the practice group they're most interested in. And then at the end of the day, I get all the evals and they say, this person really wants to do real estate. This one really, the same person wants to do corporate and litigation. And so it kind of muddies the waters. I think they do it to be polite, that it sounds interesting to them, but it sends mixed messages to us. And, also the authenticity goes to what you're putting on your resume. If something's on there, you better be able to talk about it, right? If you say you're interested in something, you better be able to talk about why you're interested in it. Someone says, this is my favorite author, and an interviewer asks, oh, what's your favorite book? Could not come up with a single title. That is not authentic. And so making sure if you say you speak French fluently, you better speak French fluently, so don't make that mistake.
I would say on the authenticity point, I know a lot of us are using AI. I know I do too. You still have to review it. I have gotten the same email cover letter from lots of people. And this doesn't just apply to students. It happens for clerks too. But I know that AI will save us a lot of time, but please just make sure you review all your correspondence before it goes.
This is all a really, really good advice. I'm gonna I know I'm only moderating this panel, but I'm gonna jump in on one of the things that you guys had mentioned, because I feel very strongly about it. I think Rachel mentioned just doing the soul searching of what you want. I cannot tell you how many people go into this process gunning for the top ranked firm with the top ranked thing, top ranked place, and then 2 years after law school, they're like, oh no, I'm looking for a new firm. You realize you did it for totally external factors instead of internal factors about what you want. For those of you who aren't familiar, our original business is called Lateral Hub. It is a job board specifically meant for people who go to a firm and then decide to switch firms. There are 600 job postings on there right now because of that exact reason, that it is very common to go to a firm and then decide it wasn't for you. So I guess a couple of points that were mentioned is one, big law, the top rankings, just try to block out all the noise, especially if you're at a super pipeline school. It's easy to get caught up in it. And second, it is your first job, but it's not your last job. And your career is going to go in a lot of ways that you don't expect. So I think all the advice that everybody mentioned is super relevant. But I feel very strongly about that point because it really is easy to get caught up in that. All right, so just a quick reminder, last chance to join our prize raffle. The link is in the chat. Also, one of the things that I wanted to mention is every firm has most of the firms have a 1L mailing list with a link in the chat to sign up. So make sure you sign up for the mailing list to get updated on the firms. So we are all right. So last question before we move into I guess my favorite question. So I guess second to last question is with the timing of the law student hiring accelerated, firms may be interviewing and extending offers to students at different times. So a student might get an offer from one firm with an expiration date on that offer before they even get an offer from the next firm. This can be a challenge for students, and of course, firms have the reasons for doing that. So it's, challenge on both sides. So what advice do you have for a student who is considering an offer that is expiring, but they might still want to go through the process with other firms? So Natasha and Caroline, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I love this question because the answer will vary by firms, but I actually think it's important for you to put yourself in the shoes of the firm here. One thing that you may not appreciate is that if a student says no, right, for example, how is the firm going to manage that response? Are they going to perhaps interview more? Are they just done? Like that interview, that offer is gone. So appreciate that firms have to manage their yields differently. It looks different for different offices. The needs of different practice groups may vary. And so your response, one way or the other, is going to affect another student. So just kind of keep that in mind. Appreciating you may want to hear from the firm so that you can decide on other firms. That all makes sense, but just put yourself in the shoes of the firms who are also trying to manage yields across offices, across practice areas, and also just kind of being mindful of your fellow students. That being said, the response that I like, and I invite my other fellow panelists to hear, I'm really excited about your offer. If you could give me a sense of what is your timeline, you can ask. You can also ask for extensions. Some firms will not give it, so just know that it's not automatic. But I think you can inquire, what does the firm's ideal timeline look like? Are you giving extensions? Or the response I like, which is, I'm really excited about your offer. I'm actually hoping to get through interviews, by the end of OCI or whatever your date is. Versus saying, can I have an extension? And then the firm gives you 3 days. And then you're like, oh no, that's not enough time. Ask some open-ended questions about what the firm's timeline is, and that can actually help you gauge and kind of just be as professional as you can about it. Not like, well, I have 5 offers and I need to know by Friday, right? Kind of, signal to the firm that you are mindful of their timelines and their deadlines, but you kind of want to see how they align with your own.
I mean, that sounds right. I think communication is key. Letting firms know where you're at. I'm going to just go back to what I said earlier, which is that, we want to feel special. So if you just say that you want to go and, interview you want an extension for a month, which I've heard before, that doesn't make us feel really good. It makes us sound like we are a backup. And so being a little bit more deliberate in your communication about why you need that time is really important, and understanding that, right? Like every offer we give, like we have a balance, like holding an offer out for too long might impact another candidate's opportunity and our opportunity to get a very good candidate. We like you best, but there are other good people. And so, it's impacting your classmates, it's impacting the firm, and also it does impact your relationship with the firm that you're requesting the extension from. So those are all things to think about. And I totally understand why you might want to know all your options, but this is why you need to be really strategic at the beginning and time out where you're applying, how you're scheduling your interviews. So the ones that you are most interested in are front loaded. And I understand things change. As you meet a firm, you might be like, wow, I wasn't really that interested in them, but I now am. And so things have gotten kind of messy, but I'm really sorry. It's like a really hard answer because everything is changing. Everything is moving so quickly, but that's the best advice I can give.
That's such great advice, and something I've learned actually from working with firms through this process is, especially with firms who have a smaller summer class or who are towards the end of their process filling their class, sometimes firms are making offers literally one by one, where they're waiting for a student to accept or decline and then making their next offer. And sometimes students are frustrated that their offer is expiring, but that goes both ways. Sometimes you're the student who's next in line. And if the student in front of you, one of your classmates, is respectful and figures out that timing, you're the one who's benefiting from that, from getting that offer next if they're able to work the time on the right way. So that's such good advice. All right, so we're moving on to my last question, which is my favorite question, and we're also going to give out some prizes. So if you sign up for the raffle, stick around. We're also, just a reminder, we're opening our breakout rooms in about just 2 or 3 minutes. It's one of my favorite things is when students are engaging with firms in our breakout rooms, and as we've talked about throughout this panel, the engagement is such a good opportunity to engage with firms in this way and throughout this process. So make sure you stick around. Instructions, we'll be opening up the breakout rooms with instructions of how to do that in just a couple minutes. So don't go anywhere. All right, so we're going to be raffling off some prizes. We're going to go in order. I'm going to ask each of our panelists in 30 seconds or less, why should a law student join your firm? The rule here at Summer Associate Hub, as some of you may know if you've been on our panels, is you cannot say it's the people, because every firm says it's the people. As a lot of 1Ls will learn as they go through this process, it seems to be that it's always the people. So can't say it's the people, 30 seconds or less. I also like to joke when I'm on these programs, 30 seconds, it's like being on a different planet, like 30 seconds on Earth is like 3 minutes on another planet. And that seems to be the case on these panels, because everybody's so excited to talk about their firm. So actually 30 seconds or less. All right, so Nancy, I'm going to start with you. In 30 seconds or less, why should a law student join Fried Frank?
Okay, so at Fried Frank, we're offering you more than just a job. We're offering you a chance to thrive. At our firm, you can work on complex, sophisticated matters, working with industry leaders and some of the best in the business. And while doing so, we're not asking you to change who you are. Your different backgrounds, your perspectives are valued. Fried Frank is an empowering environment where professional excellence, collaboration, and integrity go hand in hand. And I want to meet you in our breakout room.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Fried Frank graciously sponsoring a Patagonia backpack, Fried Frank swag. So Ellie Cordon, if you're with us, please let us know in the Q&A. You won the Fried Frank prize. Ellie Cordon, let us know in the Q&A. All right, Natasha, on to you. 30 seconds or less. Why should a law student choose Williams and Connolly?
If you're a choose your own adventure type of person who enjoys a free market system and wants to learn by doing in a smaller environment on smaller teams, you not only have access to great work and greater attorneys who are not just brilliant, but we actually play nicely in the sandbox for high stake cases. And as someone who's actually hired all of our partners now, everyone who has been hired as a summer and associate or who's become a partner is someone that I've hired now for the last 15 years. We grew up together. So if that's something that is appealing to you, give us a look in the breakout room.
Fantastic. And Williams and Connolly sponsored Amazon gift card. Thank you so much. Christian Martin, if you're with us, please let us know in the Q&A. Christian Martin. All right, Rachel, on to you. 30 seconds or less. Why should a law student choose Proskauer?
I don't know if I can beat Natasha or Nancy, but I'll try. So we offer really great, really exciting work for really incredible clients, which I think is what distinguishes us from other firms. I think we offer a well-rounded experience through our affinity groups, through our pro bono, through our CSR initiatives. You get to kind of do good and be good at the same time. Everyone in our offices are respectful, caring. It's not the people, because I'm not allowed to say it's the people, but I do really think there's something incredibly special about Proskauer and the way you're able to bring your whole self to work and do great work with the people that you enjoy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. And a Proskauer sponsored swag bag full of Proskauer swag. The winner is Lindsay Domiano. Lindsay Domiano, if you're with us, please let us know in the Q&A. Thank you so much. And Caroline, last but not least, 30 seconds or less, why should a law student choose Sheppard Mullin?
I think Sheppard Mullin offers you the best of both worlds. You get to do really excellent work, but in a collaborative, down-to-earth culture, right? We're a full-service firm with international reach. Acknowledged deep roots in California, but we are elsewhere. And we're known for our commitment to client service and professional development. We hire a very small class every year. And so you're not just a number here. We really carefully curate the summer program and events so that it's tailored for you for a really bespoke summer experience. We have a lean staffing model, which means you get real responsibility early on in your career. And we value authenticity, mentorship, and growth. So if you're looking for a place where you can do excellent work and be genuinely supported, Sheppard is that place. And the best part is you're going to have fun doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Caroline. And winner of the Sheppard Mullin sponsored Yeti mug and small tote. Brendan Brown, let us know if you're with us. Brendan Brown, let us know in the Q&A for the Sheppard Mullin Prize. These are some of my favorite people in the legal recruiting industry, and I am so happy that we were able to host this. There's been obviously a lot of chatter, a lot of noise about the recruiting process, and a lot of students trying to figure it out. So I'm so happy that we were able to host this. So grateful for this wonderful panel, for the insights. So thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule, for sharing this with us, and for helping the students navigate this process. And thank you to so many students for joining us to listen to the firms and to meet everybody. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned, we have some virtual programs coming up in January, so make sure to stay tuned on our newsletter for that. And we have our wonderful in-person job fair interview programs coming up in February. So make sure to stay tuned on the newsletter for updates on how to sign up. Pre-registration opens next week. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to open the breakout rooms in just a second. And yeah, thank you so much.